Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. Really excited to have my friend Jason Pritchard on today. We're going to be talking about the success roadmap, some really key components that you need on your roadmap to reach success.
Professional real estate investors know that it's not really about the real estate. In fact, real estate is just a vehicle to freedom. A group of over 100 of the nation's leading real estate investors from across the country meet several times a year at the Investor Fuel Real Estate Mastermind to share ideas on how to strengthen each other's businesses, but also to come together as friends and build more fulfilling lives for all of those around us. On today's show, we're going to continue our conversation of fueling our businesses and fueling our lives. I'm glad you're here.
Hey, Jason, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Mike. I'm excited, man. I've been following your guys' stuff forever, and it's great to finally be able to participate with you and get on one of the shows, man. Thanks for having me.
Glad you're here. And then, of course, you're a member of Investor Fuel now, so really excited to have you. And you just have a ton of energy in your business right now and in your momentum and stuff like that. And I love that's a lot of people have that in our Investor Fuel group. They're on the upward trajectory. Yeah. They're willing to invest in themselves. They're willing to open up and share everything they know, which really kind of launches you forward, right? Which is an amazing thing about Investor Fuel. And I appreciate you for bringing the heat, as they say, in terms of helping participate with that. So glad to have you.
I love giving back. I love being a resource to other investors. I feel like, there's always people that helped us along the way. And that's true of myself, man. There were people that kind of steered me in the right direction when I was at the beginning of my journey. So I love to give back. And like I said, I always say there's no secrets. I think, anybody can be successful in this business if they're willing to put in the work and follow some of the things that we're going to talk about today, man. So I'm excited.
For sure. And if they're willing to give, because I think you just hit the nail on the head there. That's kind of the foundation of our Investor Fuel Mastermind is giving, a culture of giving, because you just said it there. I mean, we couldn't have scripted it better, is that when you get to a point where you're having the level of success and you feel the need to give back because you got so much in the past, then it's just this flywheel of like, I keep giving and I keep getting more, right? And so it's a cool place to be.
It's interesting, man. We hear these things like that, where if you can positively impact other people, it always comes back full circle. And I think, it's been proven to me so many times over and over again. I think it's hard at the beginning because people sometimes play with the cards close to their chest. But yeah, that go-giver mentality, man, it's had such a profound impact on my life and my business. And if I can push that forward and help other people see how impactful it can be for them, then just the better for them, man. So I'm excited, man, to share.
I know you're going to share some good stuff today. Hey, before we jump into it, tell us a little bit about how you found your way to where you're at today.
Sure. Yeah. So I'll give you the condensed version. I started in corporate America just all through college. And after I graduated college, I spent 15 years working at two different companies. I cut my teeth in sales and sales management. So I found that I was just really good at that. And, they just, that's kind of how they sucked me in. I think at the beginning, at the first company I was in, they paid me a good salary. I excelled in the position and I started kind of climbing the corporate ladder. And I saw that, I thought anyways, that was going to be the vision for my career and my future. And, I just went through this 7-year cycle at the first place where I got really burnt out. And I thought it was because of the company I was at. I jumped over to another company and I went through almost an identical 7-year cycle at the second place. And I found myself in my early 30s just in this position where I hated my job. I was unhappy with my life. My marriage was not doing well. And I just said, you know what, if I don't try something different, I feel like this is just going to be what the rest of my life is going to look like. And, fortunately for me, my wife was very supportive. 6 years ago, I quit my job. I went all into this real estate investing and we bought our first project and we haven't looked back since, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it has, being self-employed, having your own business, it gives you a chance to, you can spice things up. Most companies, they kind of get stale and you get there for a while. And I've kind of found that I'm the type of guy that I'm really good at starting things or fixing things, but when it comes to just maintaining stuff, I get a little bit bored. But when you're working for a company, that's kind of how you go fix it and then you have to manage it now.
Yeah.
And after a while, you're like, I like the idea of fixing something or building something new. I'm not really a maintenance guy. And I think in our business, what I tended to do is I just start new businesses, or I break something that I think needs to be fixed, or, you can kind of add your own spice in there if you need it, right?
It is. And that's what I tell my team all the time. It's like, we're building the airplane while we're in the air. You know what I mean? And I think it does
Exactly.
add a layer of excitement, because corporate jobs can get mundane and just, they just get boring after a while, like you said. And just,
Right.
for me, I wake up every day, I'm charged up, I'm energized. I love coming into the office. It doesn't feel like work. I haven't felt like I've worked a day in the last 6 years, and so as long as I can keep that kind of momentum going, I can probably just keep doing this for the rest of my life, man.
That's great. That's great. So we're going to talk kind of about what we kind of call the success roadmap. And it's basically just kind of 3 pillars of things that you and I talked about ahead of time that are really important there's a lot of things that need to fill in the gaps, right? But kind of 3 big pillars, which are really mindset, being sales and marketing focused first, and then kind of the power of your network. And so I wanted to kind of get into those. So let's kind of jump into the mindset stuff, because like you said, I know we talked about a little bit ahead of time, until you get your mind right, you're just not ready to do anything else. And you're probably going to just flounder at best if you don't have the right mindset. So what does the right mindset mean to you?
I think for me, it starts with having a positive self-image and developing the belief that you can accomplish whatever goal it is that you set out to do, right? And I think most people derail themselves right from the beginning, because deep down, they're struggling with like fear and self-doubt and all of these negative other influences from friends and family members and people that they don't even know are conditioning them and programming the way that they're thinking and feeling. And I think that is one of the biggest obstacles that people have to overcome at the beginning, is learning how to keep your head screwed on straight every day. Because the real estate part for me, I found, is the easy part, right? When you just show up every single day and you do the things that you're supposed to be doing, the real estate stuff will come. But it's, what do you do when you don't feel like getting up, right? What do you do when everything in your body and your mind is telling you to sleep in and not get up and do the thing that you need to do? And you can develop the self-mastery to be able to say, no, I'm in control. I'm going to do these things. And I, frankly, Mike, like we've talked about, like I spend more time focused and energy focusing on self-development and developing the proper mindset, because I know that's what's going to help keep me on the trajectory that I'm on, right? Regardless of whatever the market does.
Yeah. And it's interesting, because I think for a lot of people, you probably would agree with this, is like, it's maybe like 10% more work than you would do otherwise. It's not like, there's a fine line between like just getting by and having a crappy mindset and having like a awesome mindset that really motivates you to kind of move forward. It's not like it's 10 times more work. It's just
it's not. And it's what I found is just constantly being self-aware enough and auditing the way that you're thinking and feeling, and not living at the effect of all the things that are happening in your life, and kind of being like that pinball that's getting bounced around every day because this happened or that happens, right? I think most people don't realize that we're in 100% control of the way that we think and feel every day. And we make a conscious choice to respond or not respond to those things that come up, right?
Yeah.
And when I've learned to kind of like not be emotionally attached to the outcomes that are happening in my business, right? And just knowing that, if I just come up and I trust this process and do the process that is proven to work, the outcome is inevitable. Whether we win today or we take a loss today or whatever, it doesn't matter, because in the long run, we're going to be fine, right? And I think that takes a lot of work here. And that's what, I think most people really, really discount that. They want to know, how do I raise money and where do we do deals? And those things are important to a certain extent. But, when once you lose that initial motivation, when you jump into the business, because everybody's riding a big wave when they make the decision to get in, and then they kind of hit this lull where they're like, wow, this is harder than I thought. How do you overcome that? And how do you kind of deal with all the peaks and valleys? Because there's so many highs and lows in this business. You have to fortify the foundation of the way that you're thinking every day, right, in order to make it through.
Right. What do you what are your thoughts on like the, I just did a video. I've been trying to record a video a day, like 5 a week at least, of just like little content. It's just like a thought I had. I wake up in the morning and I think of something. I'm like, I'm going to just shoot a video on this topic. And part of it is me getting out of my comfort zone, because for as many podcasts as I've done, I really don't like going live and doing stuff like off the cuff, but I'm like forcing myself into it. Which I like. So, we get some good feedback. And so hopefully it's helping some people too. And it's helping me like just get out there more. About the size of your business, because for a lot of people, if they're doing a deal or two a month, you probably can't afford, you're in California, a little bit different market, but you probably can't afford a team, right? So you would get stuck doing everything inevitably, like that pinball analogy you just gave, you're doing everything,
Mm-hmm.
right? But once you get up above like 3, you start doing 4 at night, you can bring in an admin, you can bring in a salesperson, and they start to take some stuff off your plate that gives you the time to work on your mindset, because at least you may not think you have the time to do it if you're doing everything, right? So kind of getting your business up past that tipping point of I can afford a staff now helps probably with mindset, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think a lot of it is leaning on the people that are around you, or just other successful people. They don't necessarily need to be your personal network, but they can look at people like you and me and see like, hey, there's a certain process that you can follow in order to be successful, right? You can't just be a one-man show for the rest of your life. And I was on that trajectory at the beginning. We were scrambling, and I did everything. Like, I would print the direct mail stuff at my house, and me and my family would sit there and write all the things out, and I would hand deliver it at the post office. Then I would go on the appointments. Then I would meet the contractors. Then I would be cutting checks to the contractors in the Home Depot parking lot. And then I would be selling the houses. And then I mean, it was crazy, right? Yeah. And eventually you got to get to the point where you have enough faith that knowing like, hey, if I bring this other person on, it's going to buy back my time to be able to do these other things. And you're not committing to saying, hey, I'm going to pay this person $50,000 a year. You're committing to $3,000 a month for 90 days, right? And just see how that works, right? And then there's a quote that I love that I believe, and I can't remember who said it, but it's like, you don't need to see the whole staircase, right? You just need to take the first step in faith, and then you take the second step. And I've just lived by that, right? Like, I don't know what I'm doing half the time, right? Every time you level up, you don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, there's literally like, you don't know what the end outcome is going to be, but you have to have the self-confidence. And it goes back to what I was saying about having this positive self-image where you believe that you can actually do these things, right? And you may not know the whole how, but just take that first step. And then I guarantee you, if you take the first step, the second step will become clear at a certain point if you just do that. And if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, eventually you'll be at the top of the staircase.
Yeah, and I think some of it is just the confidence of knowing there is another step there.
Yes.
Like, you're not going to fall off a cliff. Like, just keep going. You know, even though you can't see around the corner, you maybe can't see it. It's there. Just don't worry about it till you get to the level below that, right?
What I always say is nothing great happens inside our comfort zone. So if our comfort zone ends here, right, then there's the danger zone over here. So once you get past this point, you're being too reckless, right? But in here, this is where like I'm trying to live every single day of my life, where you're pushing and you're growing and you're forcing your mind and your body to do these things that are uncomfortable, that are new. And that's what creates the growth in our life. Yeah. But you're not so reckless where the wheels are going to come off any second, right? And if you can just learn to stay right there, I found that's where like the greatest things that have happened in the real growth that I've seen personally in my marriage and in my personal life, plus my business and money and finances and all those things. All the good stuff happens right there in that little sweet spot.
That's great. Yeah. What would you say if people are listening right now and they know they need some help on mindset? I mean, some people go listen to Tony Robbins, some people like do a lot of other things, but what are some of your favorites, or what are some things that people could go get access to that might help them?
I'll talk about what worked for me, because when I started, I was bootstrapping everything. So I didn't have I had a 6-figure corporate job and I quit. I didn't have money. I was the main breadwinner in my family. So we just made a decision that we're going to live off my wife's salary for a year. And so I was just trying to put everything together. So for me, it was podcasts, YouTube videos, and being very cautious and understanding what am I actually putting into my brain every single day, right? Am I getting up and watching the news and watching something negative that's just going to send me down some spiral or some rabbit hole, or listening to some music when I'm working out that maybe is not a positive, uplifting message, right? Or am I listening to a motivational video or a podcast that maybe is putting something in my brain that's going to help me with my real estate business, right? And I think, number one, being cognizant and aware all the time of what we're actually feeding our mind. And I think most people are not, and I was not, right? Like when I go to the gym, I just listen to whatever music I would listen to and just not have any thought. When I was in the car, like that's really valuable time that I think people don't realize when we're just kind of driving around or we're working out, where we can make a decision to put something that's going to propel us closer to our goals in our mind and plant those seeds in our mind, versus planting seeds that are negative or that are neutral and that are not going to get us any closer. So I think starting there is a good starting point. And you'll see the way that you start thinking and feeling every day will start to change. And it's not going to be like a light switch where you just flip the switch and the lights come on. Yeah. It's like a dimmer switch where slowly but surely, like you're raising the switch, and then 2 years later, all of a sudden it's like, okay, now I can see. You know what I mean? And you're like, wow, how did this happen? And it's all the work that you've been putting in before. And I think that's what people have to do, is commit to actually doing that and sticking with the process. And the result is always inevitable if you do it and you don't give up.
That's awesome. Yeah. And there's so much free stuff out there these days with
podcasts.
I mean, there's like a million lifetimes of content. And, one of the things that I've done really over the past year is I was so industry specific, like listening to, consuming, creating real estate investing stuff. And I started to broaden out to other business stuff. And like I listened to a podcast called Business Wars.
Yeah.
That kind of basically tells right now there's one that's like KFC versus Chick-fil-A. And it just tells the backstory, but there's always like these companies were always on the brink of failure at some point, if not many times. And just to kind of hear the stories of like, then they did this, or they made this relationship, or they changed completely, or whatever it is, it always inspires me to hear almost like biographies of how people overcame challenges, because that's what we're all trying to do, is overcome obstacles, right?
One of my favorite books is Shoe Dog, the Nike story. And so it's like Phil Knight's story on how, like, I mean, it's just amazing to hear like all of the things that they overcome, and like how many times a company like Nike, which is a staple like in our society, right? Like they were just on the verge of like, well, this is it, we're shuttering the doors and we're just going to go back and get regular jobs, man. So stuff like that, I think it's a combination of motivation, right? Like things that motivate you and charge you up, and also like tactical things that you can do to actually reprogram the way that you think. You have to have a little bit of both, or at least that's what worked for me. And I think people focusing on that can help start the seeds going. And once it goes, then it'll just be like a snowball effect, and you'll just gain more momentum. And then it starts the things that you want will start happening faster and faster.
Right. So the second thing we're going to talk about is really kind of being sales and marketing focused, or sales and marketing focused. And I told you that just coincidentally, I did a video this morning on the importance of lead generation and lead conversion to the business. So I think a lot of people say they're real estate investors and they're not really generating leads. They're like, well, I talked to a couple people, and I always compare stuff, because I actually have a little bit of background in retail for retail companies.
Yeah.
It's like I liken sales and marketing to us as real estate investors as people walking in our store, right? Some are going to walk in and just browse around and never buy anything. And you hope that, if you get 20 people into your store, that hopefully half of them buy something. And that's a sales funnel, right? We have a sales funnel too. And my argument is typically people aren't focused on getting enough people to come in the store, because that's what kind of feeds our businesses. But let's give your take. I know you came from a sales and marketing background, just how important that is to this business.
One of the things that I think that helped me the most, Mike, was that I spent that time in corporate America, that 15, 16 years that I spent, it was all in sales and in sales management, right? And so I understood the value of what marketing was, when the leads came in, how important they were to touch them quickly and get them through our process in an efficient way, because people just lose interest, especially in this day and age, right? And I think I get hit up all the time by different people, and I like to help and I like to give back, and people always ask me, hey, can I pick your brain? What do I need to do to get started? And the advice that I give almost 100% of the people is the same. And I always tell them, if I were starting all over again, knowing exactly what I know now, but no resources, no money, no anything, and I'm just starting from zero, I would focus all of my time and effort and energy on marketing to people that are motivated to sell for some other reason besides money, getting those leads coming in, and then putting them through our process, which is qualifying them for motivation, and then going on an appointment, making an offer. And then it's just a numbers game at that point, right? So once I did my first real estate transaction and I understood and I got over the intimidation of like, how do we buy a house? I took a step back and I was like, this is the same thing I've been doing for 15 years. It's just I'm speaking a little bit of a different language. And now we just have to reverse engineer, how many calls do I need to make to talk to this many sellers, to go on this many appointments, to make this many offers, to get this many accepted contracts, right? And then we just reverse engineer that. And then are you willing to do the work? That's it. So once you can figure that out, it's can you show up every day and make 100 calls? And then do that again the next day, and do that again the next day. And most people don't realize there's so much of that at the front end of this business. It doesn't matter if you have $1 million there to buy a house. It doesn't matter if you're a contractor, your dad's a contractor. It doesn't matter what title company you're going to use. Right. Real estate is a linear process. So if you don't get past step one, it doesn't matter what step two is. And step one is marketing and generating leads and getting those leads through your sales system and getting those offers accepted. And then you can move on to step 2.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't matter what your business card looks like or what your logo looks like. Right. And I found myself saying this to somebody the other day. I was like, it's just math.
It is.
It's just math. You've got to talk to this many to go to the next level, which is you have some interest, you make offers, and you get contracts. It's just a sales funnel.
It's the law of averages. There's a book called from Og Mandino called The Greatest Salesman on Earth. And in there, he talks about the law of averages and what that is. And that's just what this is. It's just, if you just do this enough, the law of averages will always take hold. So it's, can you do the work every day? And that goes back to developing the mindset so that you can come in and actually do the work every single day. And then the result that you want will happen eventually.
Yep, exactly. And that's what I'd tell most people. A lot of newer people are like, I got to get a house. I really want to get a house. I really want to get a house. It's like, what you need is about 20 or 30 leads.
Yeah.
Because that's the fuel that gets you to buy a house, right?
And it's the tough thing about real estate investing because there's so many shiny objects, right? So one day you want to learn about wholesaling, then it's flipping, then it's creative financing, then it's like, how do I raise private money? And then what about hard money lenders? But then how do I calculate ARVs and rehabs? And so I see, and I've struggled with that too. So this is not anything that I didn't deal with at the beginning. You jump around to all these different things. And if you can just get laser focused on sales and marketing, and especially for people that are working a day job and trying to break into the business, right? Your time is already very, very limited because you've got a time commitment to work. You've got a time commitment for your family. That free time that you're going to spend every day and on the weekend doing that, it can only be on marketing and lead gen. That's it. Like otherwise, you're, like you said, if you're sitting there fooling around with your website on GoDaddy or something, it's you can't do that yet. So yeah, you got to focus on the things that really move the needle, and that's what moves the needle in this business.
Absolutely. So the third pillar is your network, just the power of your network, the relationships, all that could bring you. So what are your thoughts on, the power, how your network has helped you?
It's if not the most impactful, it's right up there at the top of the list. It's one of the things that like fundamentally changed my life and my business. And it's interesting because I have spent time around, prior to getting into real estate, all of my friends and family, we're like the same buddies from like elementary, middle school, and high school. And it's so crazy. All of us, if you look back, did similar things. All of us made about the same money. All of us had the same interests. All of us kind of like plateaued at a certain point, right? And as soon as I got around people that were doing what I was doing, it just opened my mind up to all these other possibilities. And I tell this story all the time, and I'll share it right now. I remember after my first year in the business, I think I'd flipped like 5 or 6 houses. So I had some positive momentum, right? And I was still kind of in that imposter syndrome where I was worried, like, when's the next deal going to come from? And am I going to have to go get a job later on, right? And I met this guy who was very impactful in my life. And he wasn't a mentor, as my buddy Alan. He wasn't a mentor, but he was just a guy that I used as a guiding post for me because he started 2 years ahead of me, right? And so I always said, like, if I do what Alan's doing, in 2 years, I'll be doing that. And the first day I met him at a RIA event, and I could just tell that he was different than the other people. So I approached him afterwards and we were talking, and I said, hey man, what are you going to do? What's your goals this year? And he said, I'm going to buy 16 rentals this year. And it was already like April or something like that. And I was in my brain, I was like, how is it even possible that you can even do something like that, right? And so I made an attempt to connect with him. I tried my best to provide value with him. I was an open book and just showed him, like, here's everything I'm doing. Here's how I do my direct mail. Here's how I do my bandit signs at the time. I would go over to his house and I would show him how to do that. And in turn, I was just like, dude, if you have anything positive that can rub off on me, I'll take it, man. And so like, just by being around him and then being around other people like him, it showed me that not only what's possible, but also this is just a regular guy, and I never take success away from anything, right? But my buddy Alan was just a normal person, right? He wasn't like, I never walked away from any of these meetings feeling like this was like Bill Gates or Mark Cuban on the other end of the table, right? Like, this is just a regular person that just did what they said that they were going to do, right? And so if I do the same things that they tell me to do, I know that I can do that, right? And you do that enough and you set a goal for yourself and then you hit it, it builds a lot of confidence. And then you're like, all right, let's set this next goal, right? And if my buddy can do this, I know I can do it. So let's set this goal up here. And then you hit that goal. And then you start getting to the point where you realize, like, I can do anything that I set my mind to as long as I follow this plan and this process. And that was really what changed my life, getting around other people. And then, just being a part of groups like Investor Fuel and, being around people where you can just share and collaborate all of the things that are working. It's like putting rocket fuel into your spaceship and you get to where you want to go faster.
That's awesome. Yeah. And once you have a business that's of significance, right? Sometimes you hear a little nugget that in the past wouldn't have meant anything,
Yeah.
but it's like, wow, that's like that little thing right there is going to save me or help me make $50,000, $100,000 a year, double my business sometimes. Cause it's really just small things that really move the needle for us sometimes. Right.
It is, man. And a lot of it's about the timing and you being ready to like actually accept that information. Yeah. Right. And I think a lot of it is that, like, you hear, just like you said, you hear the same thing over and over and over again, but you were not ready to accept that and implement it in your business. Right. And then you just get around it enough and you're like, okay, like you said, like for whatever reason today it clicked, and then you go and do it. And then it's compounded by having access to the people that are doing it, because then you can always reach out, and the things that you think that are these big obstacles, they're just little tweaks, right? They'll just be like, no, dude, don't do it like that. Just do this little thing over here. And then it's like the floodgate opens, right? And you have to have it proven to yourself, I think, a couple of times before your mind can really buy into it. But then once you're bought in, then it's like you just keep your foot on the gas and keep going.
Yeah, I think one thing that helps by getting around other people that are doing this is, that those people, we have some great people in Investor Fuel for sure. I'm not trying to take anything away from anybody, but none of them came out of the womb like with rock star status, right? No. They had to iterate to get there. And I think it's sometimes you look at somebody and you're like, well, that's just a really good guy, regular guy. He figured it out. He just didn't give up. He just kept trying. I could do that too. And it's so much easier to apply. It's like it just starts to eliminate some of the doubt in your mind of, could I even do that, or do I even want to do that, right?
It is. It's the network gives you speed. And I think nobody's going to do the work for you. And, nobody's going to hold your hand while you do it. And I don't think anybody's expecting that, right? But it's those little tweaks and the speed to be able to take something where you would normally go this route and just shortcut straight to it because of one or two little tidbits or nuggets that you said that you can just implement, and it takes you a lot faster.
Right. So you talked a little bit about Investor Fuel. Would you mind just giving a quick kind of testimonial of your experience in the group?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. So I just recently joined at the beginning of the year, and I think I've actually hamstrung myself a little bit, Mike, frankly, and we talked about that when I was looking at the group, because I bootstrapped everything at the beginning. I didn't pay for coaching at the beginning because I didn't have money, frankly, to do it, right? I never paid to be part of a mastermind event. And I always saw people doing it. I saw people like my buddy Alan that were doing it, and I saw the success that they were having, but I had, for whatever reason, a limiting belief about doing it, or I would always say like, I'll get to it, I'll get around to it. I never made it a priority. And just in the 3 or 4 months that I've been there, just the relationships that I've made with the people that I'm going to be involved with, like the coaching that I'm joining and all these other things, that it's just proven to me how impactful the group has been, being around other people that are not just doing what you're doing, but also set the bar higher, right? And I think a lot of times you're paying for access, right? Because I run a pretty successful RIA in my market. We get 100, 150 people prior to COVID showing up in person, right? And sometimes the attendance can just be all over the board, right? It tends to attract a lot of new people, right? And it's fun and it's great to help those people and give back and be a resource for them. But other times I want to just be able to vent or talk to people that are experiencing the same issues that I'm experiencing, right? And I think, the ability to be around other high performing people has just changed my business, like, fundamentally. And so for me, I've already seen the impact just in the, the short time that I've been involved in the group. So I love it now.
Awesome. Appreciate that, buddy.
Yep.
So folks, I know you got a RIA club. You got a lot of really cool stuff going on. Tell everybody what market you're in. You're in the Fresno area.
Yeah, I'm in Fresno, California. It's smack dab in the middle of California, the Central Valley. So Fresno is home base for us, and we do basically anything within a couple mile radius in any direction. So, we started here. We do a lot of projects here in the Valley, and we're slowly starting to expand into some other markets.
Okay. If folks wanted to connect with you in any way, what's the best way for them to do that?
Best way is on my social media. So Facebook and Instagram. If you just plug my name in there, Jason Pritchard, my handle should just pop right up. I try to be, an open book about everything, man. And so, I share the day-to-day stuff, the ups and downs that we're struggling with, the wins, the losses when they come about. I want people to know that it's not just, you're not just here making a bunch of money and doing everything. There's all these things that you deal with on a day-to-day basis. And so I've always felt that that's got really good engagement and feedback from the people that follow me. And so, I'd love to connect with the people that are viewing the show.
Awesome.
I answer all my DMs and stuff like that. So if you want to reach out to me and ask me a question, I'm happy to help.
Fantastic. We'll add links to your social accounts right down below in the show notes. So
Cool.
Thanks for spending some time with us today. Good stuff, buddy.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I love doing stuff like this, man. Just let me know if I can help with anything on your end.
Of course. Yeah. Looking forward to seeing you here in just a few more weeks at Investor.
Yeah, that's right. I'm excited, man.
Yeah. Awesome. Everybody. Hey, thanks for joining us. I hope you got some good value from this. You should connect with Jason. He's a great guy. He's actually creating a bunch of, he's been putting some content out that's really amazing. I've at least seen it on Facebook. You might be on Instagram as well.
Yeah.
But we'll add the links down below. Make sure you check that out. By the way, our next Investor Fuel meeting is coming up in just a few weeks. So if you haven't talked to us before, if you're an experienced investor and you're looking for a new home to be able to kind of give and pour into people and really get a lot back in return, we have really an amazing family of professional real estate investors we'd love to talk to you about. Just go to investorfuel.com and you can learn more. Otherwise, see you on the next show. Take care.
Are you an active real estate investor? If so, and you want to latch on to the power of surrounding yourself with over 100 of the nation's leading real estate investors, all committed to building stronger businesses and living richer, fuller lives, you should jump on a call with us to learn more about Investor Fuel. Simply visit investorfuel.com to get started.